Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And Rishi Sunak has announced a policy that will both please everybody in Aberdeen, because it has basically secured 200,000 jobs in the oil and gas industry, and simultaneously it will annoy the Greens. And I think that's worth every one of those jobs, because we know that everything that annoys them has got to be good for the country. What he's looking at is to actually make the use of North Sea oil and gas basically compulsory, so that we're not reliant on importing energy for the foreseeable future. This is a marvellous turnaround. Like, who'd have thought that this would have actually happened? But it mandates licensing effectively. Now we're going to take a look at this, but it's just one of those things that's come out of the blue, but which will ensure our economy, our energy security, our job situation, especially up in the northeast of Scotland, where you have some of the world's sort of leading engineers and technicians and geologists and all that, very high-tech, high-paid jobs, as well as going into the greater economy, the supply lines, the tertiary industries, plus then all the other stuff that hangs around, bars, restaurants, car dealerships, that sort of thing, they all employ. And so it's a vital link in the economy of the northeast in particular, but the whole of Scotland, and indeed the whole of the United Kingdom. It's that strategic a decision. So we'll take a look at it and just be amazed that he's gone with it. Here goes. So, this is the headline. Huge boost for North Sea oil and gas industry as UK government moves to safeguard 200,000 jobs. You can imagine Geoffrey and the Imp and Mad Maggie the Perv, little grocery, all of them sitting there choking on their tofu porridge as they're reading this headline. They'll be like, this stands against everything they want. And we're not even talking about the environment. No, safeguarding of jobs, people earning money, the economy growing. They can't be having that. That means people are happy and wealthy, and that they don't need mad Marxists like the Greens. Oh dear, what a shame. The children of the world will be thankful. They'll be safe from the perversions of the Greens if we can get them out of power. Anyway, plans to mandate oil and gas licensing in the North Sea will be announced in the King's Speech. This will be reducing the UK's dependency on hostile foreign regimes, such as Russia, and leading to lower household energy bills. What else is there to say on that? The trouble is, of course, Brent crude, our North Sea stuff, isn't really suitable for petrol and diesel as such, but it is good for heating oil, for lubricants, for industrial uses. It's marvellous for that, but it's not the sort of Texas tea type stuff, the very thin, light, as they call it, that you have from the Arabs or the sort of Texas area. But it is still a very useful stuff, and it is used in industry and it's used in heating and things like that. Plus, of course, that what goes beside the oil is all that gas. That is good. That is what we need. Anyway, the UK government revealed plans to mandate oil and gas licensing in the North Sea in a bid to reduce dependency on hostile foreign regimes. The plans were set up to provide job security for 200,000 workers in the £16 billion industry, and it'll make them more secure and help with the transition to net zero in 2050. Legislation is to be set out later this week in the King's Speech, which will require the North Sea Transition Authority to invite applications for new production licences on an annual basis to safeguard the prosperity of our country. You don't have to do many a year. You just keep them churning. Let's say 20, 30 a year. Churn. There's a lot of gas and oil out in the North Sea. People don't realise how much. There was always that talk about North Sea oil running out. Not for the foreseeable future. And don't forget, of course, in terms of gas, we've got about 5,000 to 9,000, depending on how much we extract, years. 5,000 to 9,000 years of gas if we start doing shale extraction. So we're not running out of gas anytime soon either. And don't even get me started on the 20 to 25,000 years of coal reserves we have. So again, we're not running out of energy anytime soon. Data published by the Climate Change Committee showed that the UK will continue to rely on oil and gas to help meet its energy needs even after net zero in 2050. Well, here's the thing. You could actually take all, and I mean literally all, every house in Britain, every single one, convert it to all electric heating, and it would only reduce our gas demand by about 15%. Meanwhile, to do it and have all electric cars, I've mentioned this before, you'd need 36 nuclear power stations. That's just for homes and cars. You have them. But the trouble is, industry. Industry needs so much oil and gas. Industry is where the oil and the gas goes. And make no bones about that. You've got to have it. There are so many things it's useful for. Anyway, the UK government said the move would bolster energy security, reducing reliance on imports from hostile foreign regimes such as Russia, and leaving us less exposed to unpredictable international forces, which was promised to lower household bills. Imagine, for example, that we were self-sufficient in oil and gas, and we didn't have to worry about the state of, what Russia and the Ukraine were doing, because we weren't reliant on Russian oil and gas. Our household bills would reduce, our energy bills would be still low, wouldn't they? No, of course not, because they artificially increase them. We have these green tariffs that are artificially added on. In actual fact, oil and gas are very, very cheap, but they're artificially inflated. We don't buy gas from Russia, for example. We don't buy oil from Russia. We never have. Germany's screwed. They closed down all their coal mines. They're getting rid of all their nuclear power plants. They go, we're going to buy oil and gas from Russia. And now they're screwed. But, hey-ho. You makes your choices, don't you? The whole point of having an energy security is that, yes, you do buy in foreign gas and oil. If you've got your own, you buy in foreign gas and oil. But you also keep your coal-fired stations open, your gas, you have your renewables and all that. You have as many different forms of generation as possible, and you keep them all going. Even if you only have to keep them on low. You keep them just turning over, just ticking over, because you never know. And we need little things like, let's have a couple of coal-powered stations, but not churning out the power we need, but just little tick over, tick over, tick over, because you never know when something's going to happen. You're going to have to rely on it. Quick, fire up the quattro, fire up the boiler, and you can do it because you've got it constantly just ticking over. It isn't a big thing. If you had to build one from scratch, you're in trouble. Anyway, each annual licensing round will only take place if key tests are met that support the transition to net zero, including that the UK must be projected to import more oil and gas from other countries than it produces at home, and that carbon emissions associated with the production of UK gas are lower than the equivalent emissions from imported liquefied natural gas. If both tests are met, then the TSA will be required to invite application for new licences annually. Now, this doesn't actually make sense. What they're saying there is, if the production of our own gas is lower than importing it from another country, then we will produce it. But when you burn gas, it's the same gas. It's the same. The principle here should be that while we've got it, we just keep it ticking over low. Just keep it going, keep the industry going, but import as much as we can. Because at the end of the day, the one that's left with the last barrel of oil wins. Anyway, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said, "I am proud that the UK is a world leader in reducing emissions, and why do we have to be the world leader at it? Why can't we just slowly bring it down and let someone else be the world leader? Because we're so small, it doesn't make any difference on the grand scale, but it seriously screws us up. Stop it, Rishi. Stop being the world's best. Just be adequate. Let's just be adequate for once. Stop trying to big cock your way onto the big table with the big boys." Anyway, he said domestic energy will play a crucial role in the transition to net zero, supporting jobs and economic growth while also protecting us from the volatility of international markets and diversifying our energy sources. Screw them. Screw them all. We're the ones with the resources. We just keep taking it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what we do. We're too small. The Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero, Claire Coutinho, said the UK has cut its emissions faster than any of its peers. But as the Independent Climate Change Committee acknowledges, we will need oil and gas even as we reach net zero. You will need oil until the end of time, because there's a million things that oil makes before you even burn it for energy. But these people don't understand that because they're all genuinely really pretty thick. Anyway, Offshore Energy's UK Chief Executive David Whitehouse said the UK needs the churn of new licences to manage production decline in line with our maturing basin. Yeah, you've got to have new ones coming online. So you have here's the brand new one that's being developed, one that's starting to pump, one that is pumping, one that's closing down, and one that's being finished and closed off. So you've always got that sort of that constant rippling churn, so that you've got a constant supply. It's sensible, isn't it? John Butterworth, Chief Executive of National Gas, said gas is the backbone of our nation's energy system, and it is vital that we make the most of the abundant resources we have. National Gas are delighted to see the government give their firm back into the UK's gas sector. He said, by backing gas and embracing hydrogen, we can create jobs, secure energy independence, deliver net zero, and keep costs down for households and businesses. Yes, it's a brilliant idea. You're guaranteeing the jobs and you're guaranteeing energy supply from us, because we've got so much of it. Don't be listening to the fearmongers going, we're running out. We really, really aren't. We've got 20,000 years of energy minimum. I certainly won't be around. It won't run out in my life. It won't run out in your life. And your great-great-grandchildren's great-great-grandchildren will still be using oil. Coming up. At least the tone is changing. They are all looking very optimistic at the fossil fuel industry. They're all saying, yes, we know we need oil. We're not going to screw you. We've got oil, but we've got lots of oil. And we're going to use it, and we're going to maintain it, and we're going to make sure that we are never held hostage to the likes of Russia or Iran or anyone who's one of the big oil producers. Even America, third biggest oil producer in the world, who knows what happens when they start running low? They won't. They've got tons. They've absolutely got tons. Fourth biggest, Venezuela. I mean, all right, they're a bit dodgy, but they're not an enemy state. So, we're okay there. So we've got no worries about this. The only people who are worrying are the Greens. And they all go, climate change, bollocks. Bollocks. Doesn't matter what Britain does. Britain's far too small. If you want to really do anything about the climate, China and India, they're the two. Between them, over half the world's output. But nobody wants to mention that because it's racist. It can only be white people's fault. No, it really, really isn't. I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Let's all hope that the people of Aberdeen are popping the corks on the champagne, knowing that their great-great-grandchildren have got their jobs secured and that their economy will continue unabated for the foreseeable and indeed unforeseeable future. Thank you and goodbye.